Well said.
We are good.
Live. Five. One time, pledge allegiance to the woman party. Allegiance to the flag of the United States, to the republic. Oh, here we go. Roll call, please.
Nick. Here. Chris.
Here.
Ryan. Here. Rich.
Here. And he's not here. And he's working, right?
Yes.
Correct. Thank you. We'll open up for the public hearing on the tax exemption. Anybody have anything they would like to say? Questions, comments, concerns?
I just had one question, because it's spelled out, we're already receiving a military veterans exemption. Can you additionally get a fireman's exemption, or water, doesn't it spell that out?
Okay.
Yeah, you're allowed to stack, but you're allowed to stack your exemptions like that. But if you're a firefighter and you're an ambulance worker, you don't get two, you only get one. However, if there's a couple, I would say a husband and wife, that would be inappropriate, I guess. If there were two people whose name was on the title living in a house, they were each, one was an ambulance worker, then they would be able to stack. If you have 10 people on the title, I don't think you pay taxes. That's what I'm thinking.
That's the same way it works with the income. Both your husband and wife both take $200.
Good. Great. Anybody else have anything? All right, perfect. Moving on. We're going to jump around a little bit here. We're going to jump right into new business. They got something you want to say about your MOU?
Yes, I do, Mr. Chairman.
Right. Right way.
I've played simple things for many years. First, I just want to say to the board, thank you very much. We received all of the MOUs back from all the fire departments, a lot of work by Mark Classavita and the staff. Our first one we received was from the city of Troy, shockingly enough. But Troy is very interested in utilizing the facility, which is something we haven't seen in over 40 years, over 50 or 60 years of existence. So that's a good thing. So I want to thank the board for support. The AFG grant with us. The items that we will be purchasing will be used valuable resources for training a lot of firefighters in Western County. The items ready, we're going to get ready to purchase. Will take a little time to get here, so we're going to get that purchasing everything going very quickly. Bobby Durivage has been a great help getting us going with all that stuff. I really appreciate it. And the last item is grand opening. I don't think we forgot about recognizing the district. We are doing something. Ribbon cutting was the ribbon cutting. The grand opening we're looking to do sometime possibly in the weekend of the recruitment weekend in April. So that way we can tie it in because we're going to have everything completed by then. I would. We'll definitely do something for the district, thanking them for the support of the AG. Thank you.
Good work. Thank you, Jim. We'll just stick with that right now. Got to approve the MOU with Rensselaer County.
Make a resolution with the MOU with Rensselaer County.
Second that. Second. All in favor?
Roll call.
Rich.
Aye. Brian. Aye. Chris.
Aye.
Nick. Aye.
All right. And then the approval of the MOU with the fire departments. Make that resolution.
Second.
Second by Nick. Roll call.
Rich. Aye. Brian. Aye. Chris.
Aye.
And Nick. Aye.
And the equipment resolution here for the door prop, I believe, right, for the
door
Yeah,
props?
standardize the props. The district owns one door prop. Basically, counties would get the same type of door prop. And like we've done with the extrication tools or other things, we've standardized, to make the purchasing more streamlined. We've already done the due diligence versus the previous door prop. So make a resolution that I believe it's tell me what the name of that company is. American.
What's the name? We had it.
We had it in there.
We had it in the tip of our tongue. Remember.
Yeah, I'm gonna, it is called Firehouse Innovations Corp.
That would standardize our, as far as the door prop.
I've got a resolution, we have a second. Next seconds, roll call.
Rich. Hi. Brian.
Aye.
Chris. Hi. Nick.
Aye.
And then the last one is to authorize the district, director of purchasing to issue purchase orders for the equipment.
Make that resolution. Authorize Bob to get started with purchasing.
Seconded by Ryan.
Rich.
Aye.
Brian.
Aye.
Chris.
Aye.
Nick.
Aye.
Okay, you're done.
Done.
I would like to.
Mr. Chairman, you have to sign all them afterwards.
Safe travels.
All right. Now we'll go back up to the top. We're going to go to public session just for agenda items only. Do I have any takers? Nothing? All right. Building report. Joseph.
All right, I know we have a lot of things to do tonight with the building, but to start off, I'd like to thank Brian for coming over to WFD at our meetings and giving them a picture of what's going on over here with the commissioner going forward with the bond and all that. It was very helpful. He had a few questions, not a lot, but he I think he passed by a lot of the questions that were over there. So Brian, thank you for coming over.
Thank you for the t-shirt, which I'm bottling right now.
There you go. The other things that are coming up tonight is, I'm gonna give it to Chief Littlefield for the outreach program. He's been in contact with Ed and his people. And I just want to thank the WFD team, the commissioners and everybody for pushing this forward, and hopefully after tonight, we're only a couple months away of getting this thing on paper. Thank you. Go ahead, Chief.
So I've been working with Mr. Durivage, who was kind enough to give us the examples from when this building was designed. So in working with Mr. Anchor from the architectural group, we're hoping to have a nice set of products put together, not only for public outreach, but also for presentations to the fire district members. I believe we're going to talk about those hard dates a little bit.
Yep. All right. We're gonna move on to the resolution on listing actions under secret. Do I have to read this whole thing there?
No. What? Yeah, I mean, the upshot of it is that you're doing a construction project, so whenever you put a shovel in the ground and you're the government, or even if you're not the government, you have to show that you're complying with the State Environmental Quality Review Act. The nice thing about your project is it's essentially a remodel on ostensibly the same footprint. So you're not moving like everything else in this town. You're not moving, yards of earth and whatever. So there was this will probably be done. Again, this is the one that has to be done in advance of doing the bond resolution, so that when you do the bond resolution, you can say, we did the seeker review, we determined that this is not going to disturb an acre of land, we determined that it's not going to cause any deleterious effects on the environment, and that we've done our due diligence and determined this to be an unlisted action. Unlisted actions are the most common in the statute, meaning that the state hasn't really addressed them, and that even though it's unlisted, by virtue of the fact it's unlisted, the board's determined that there's not any adverse economic or adverse.
So are you looking for us to just call it an unlisted, or do you want to call a negative declaration? Of
No, I haven't got the negative deck yet.
Okay,
That
okay.
was right here.
Okay,
Just about. So because it's unlisted, you have to make a determination whether you need the full environmental impact statement or that you're making a negative declaration and that it's of no significance. There's nothing further to do. So where this resolution gets you to is that you looked at the EAF, your architect or engineer's been on board, and that you determined that it's actually one page. You do this before, you determine that there's a no negative, there's no adverse impact, and now it's you're making a negative declaration. There's a lot of words to basically say you voted and say there's nothing done, and that's not resolved at ed, it's resolved. Second page there. That this is a separate standalone.
yeah, there's a legal.
Sorry about that.
The last page.
I gotta say, I appreciate the work that went into this, because if there's one thing that a government entity that can do that causes, routinely causes that entity to go back and do a redo when somebody in the public has a hissy fit about it, it's improperly done secret. And if you look at the detail that went into this, I'm pretty impressed. And I appreciate the detail and the effort that went into this, because, I mean, it's something that's absolutely necessary under the law. And we're impressed. Leave it at that. So I would make a resolution that if we're just going for an unlisted action, certainly this falls on the, after reviewing the criteria with the land use professionals and the architect, I would definitely say this falls under the category of unlisted action. I would resolve it. We classify it as an unlisted action.
Second. Second by Brian. Roll call.
Rich. Aye. Brian. Aye. Chris.
Aye.
Nick. Aye. Now, when do you want them to pick their right
Now, you gotta do the legal notice. Not lit.
Oh, bond resolution.
Actually, the legal note, yeah. Probably do the bond resolution, and then this will follow that. We're in the right order. You take care off the last page. Looks like you tore off the first page, and now you got.
Yeah, I stapled them all together so it won't get mixed in with anything else. So you got everything for the building project stapled.
And if you want, Mr. Chairman, I can run with this thing, so you don't have to read the entirety of the bond resolution. Okay, so. And I'm gonna give you the short, long version of this. Basically, what the district wants to do is borrow money. And they're gonna do it by going to a bank or other institution and say, hey, we're good for the money, loan us some money for 15 years, and we'll pay it back. Every year we'll pay it back, principal and interest. In order to do that, the board has to adopt a bond resolution. What we've done in conjunction with Bob and with Sean is, it would be the collective done, is to draft this resolution, reaching for the greatest amount of money that you'd be going to borrow, $2,850,000. Not with the expectation that you're going to get all that or ask for all that, but that if you needed it, you could go at least that high. Right, and ideally you won't go that high, but you're looking to bond an amount not to exceed $2,850,000. One of the neat things you can do as commissioners is you can levy taxes against all these good people out here, and the other thing is you can encumber their land. Okay, you can't take out a mortgage, but you can pledge what's called the full faith and credit of the property owners district. That's what makes you a government as a board of fire commissioners. So what you're doing by this resolution is saying we're going to borrow some money to reconstruct the Winesfield Firehouse. We're going to sell basically 15 IOUs to somebody, probably the same person, same bank, same entity. And we're gonna pay them every year. We're gonna pay them back not only their money, but interest on it. And we estimated this to be 4 point, help me out here, Sean, where's the number?
563%.
Okay, and if, for example, I know you're a smart guy and you've got these numbers in your head. If, for example, we were to borrow $2,850,000 for 15 years at that rate, what would we be paying back every year?
About 260,000.
Okay, what would be like the total interest after 15 years?
Total interest after.
Don't look. He's got it.
1,052,000.
Okay, so and those are the numbers you need to know. Okay, so you're gonna be paying interest of $1 million on 2 million, almost 3 million bucks. Okay, over 15 years, at almost 5% is the best guess. 4.6 is not really, it's close to 4 or 5, but that's, aim a little bit higher. These are the projections. It's going to depend on mandatory referendum. It's going to be, the taxpayers vote in favor of it, and then depending upon how much you actually bond for. It could be less than that, but we don't want to. Two things: we don't want to tell people less than we're doing, and then we don't want to shoot too low because it's tough to go back and get more money after it. So that's what this resolution says. There's an area here that has to be filled in because after you decide, well, we're probably going to fill in the gray area with the numbers Sean just decided. I like to put that in the resolution. After the resolution is adopted, I assume it will be. Part of the resolution is to schedule a vote, a mandatory referendum is what it's called. And that will be on a Tuesday, someday in the near future that you'll decide in, I guess, a matter of a few minutes, to decide to go to adopt the resolution. And then it'll be up to the taxpayers to decide if they want to allow you the funding to do this. So the other thing that's not in here is the capital reserve money. Normally what I would do is I'd say, we're going to spend $500,000 in capital reserve and we borrow 2.850. I didn't do that because we don't know how much the capital reserve money is, and we can always do that separately under a permissive referendum. Usually I wrap it all into one, but we've got a couple of floating things here, at least until you do your magic with them and they decide what they want to do. Or you can leave open the capital reserve piece of it until you decide, unless you're ready to do that tonight.
Well, there's 300 and, hold on, I'm sorry.
We can't do 500.
There's $377,000 in capital reserve building.
Okay.
So I don't think we should use all of it. Maybe like 250 of it was what I was thinking, and leave a little over 100,000.
The point is, in a normal situation, I would have that in this bond
Right.
resolution, and then people would vote on everything, and we wouldn't have to do a publication of a permissive referendum for taking the money out of capital reserve. If we do.
The only fear I have on doing a permissive later is that if it's misunderstood, then it's, look, they're reaching in our pockets again.
Correct.
They already reached our pockets, we approved the bond, now they're trying to backdoor more money. And I think we need to be upfront right now and say, we're doing this so that we can maximize the benefit of we can maximize the benefit of our reserves once we know what they exactly are. And I think we need to tell people that up front, and then that number will be backed in through a permissive referendum. So they come to expect it.
And that's fine, that's great, that's my preferred modus operandi with these. I would put the capital reserve in, and I knew what that number was. So if you adopt this resolution tonight after discussion, then it'll have to be I'll have to redo it in order to put the capital reserve component in there. There will be no need for a permissive referendum because it's wrapped into the big vote. Okay, so you're actually letting them vote on not only the capital reserve, but the bonding. And then, depending on the outcome, I mean, you probably can't do one without the other anyway. So, but again, we'll do the capital reserve in an amount up to. So you want to set your ceiling for what you're going to cap in the capital reserve. The only other thing after that is when you do this, there's some publications. You got to publish the notice, you have to publish the election notice. the draft proposition will be amended, depending on what you do tonight, to include the capital reserve language. It's basically one big run-on sentence. Sister Mary Martha would not be happy with this, but it's just one huge run-on sentence that lays out everything, and then, so people come in that that they vote yes or no. They vote for the whole thing, or they vote yes in favor of it, or they vote it down. And I think there's a lot of language in here about internal revenue code and all sorts of other stuff. Don't worry yourself over that. The only other thing that is important is that we're limited to 15 years because it's a reconstruction of what the local finance law defines as a Class B building. Means it's not completely fire resistant. It's not a concrete tower or a parking garage. So it's a B building, and on a reconstruction, no matter what you're doing, you can only go out 15 years. So that's mandated by law. We already talked about that before. All that stuff is in here, and basically what this resolution will do, authorize the issuance of bonds, authorize the treasurer, sign the bonds, and you're the one.
I know.
And then when we have the bond closing, Sean would sign off on stuff. I need some. Actually, the secretary, you get to witness your own signatures. The treasurer, is kind of neat. And then and then you've done your due diligence to find a bank to do that. The bank will buy the bonds, and you'll pay them every year. One neat thing we're going to do if we go with one of the banks, we'll probably do with every one of them. If you were to say close on this thing in May, okay, your first payment will be in May next year. We're going to move that up February. Okay, end of February, so that you pay it right after you get your check, right? So you'll save, right off the bat, you're going to save 2 months interest. So there's some neat stuff like that. You're actually going out of your way to save the taxpayers money.
Terry, in reading all this stuff over in preparation for tonight, and believe me, it's mind-boggling trying to read it all over.
Mind-numbing.
And mind-numbing, yeah, boggling also. One thing came to mind with me is I've been involved in bonding fire trucks, and you're dealing with a fixed cost based on a bid, right? I've been involved, and I wasn't really personally involved, but I watched the bidding or the bonding for this building. And it was a fixed price that and it was based on construction costs, and there was a contingency there. With renovation work, I have seen so many times that contingencies often get busted, because it's like you get into it, you start tearing things apart, and it's like, oh my God, we got to replace this too. What happens, worst case scenario, what happens if we start running into a raft of these, we got to replace this too, and we bust that 285? What do you do then? What do we do? What's our?
You can drop back 7 and punt, which is probably not the thing you want to do. Number 2, you can go out and ask for more money. Okay, put another referendum on there. You could tap into capital reserve for knowing your cushion is going to be depleted. Okay, you could, again, like asking for more money, do a tax anticipation note. The more likely solution is you get your pencil real sharp, you decide what you need, and then you pay for what you can out of your current revenues, which means take your belt and tighten it 2 more notches, and the stuff that we planned on getting, other than the bare essentials, we're not getting in 2023. Okay, that's the.
I have faith in what has been done by the committee and the architect and professionals, that they've looked at everything, but I've just seen so much renovation work. It's just so easy to find something that it looked right, but I guess it isn't. We got to fix it.
The advantage of this architect and this committee is the likelihood of that is very low.
Very low, yeah.
Because they've been through this for so long and done so much back.
As long as we have I don't want to say how, as long as we have a path that we can take, should we have to. I just want to see it painted into a corner where it's a hard number and take it or leave it.
Always ask for more than you'll think you'll need.
Okay.
That's an amount not to exceed.
And I saw that there's contingency built in this, so I'm not doubting that at all.
Yeah.
So I know they're there as a cushion. And I know that the 285 is a high number based on what we anticipate for bids.
Well, let me give you a more direct answer. Maybe this is one you're looking for. You could bond you could get up to 2.8, 285, 285. And you can say, no, we're gonna take 2.5. And then you can say, we're $350,000 under. You go back,
That's right there, yeah. Oh,
here's another bond for, you could have already closed on that. Okay, but you have authority up to that amount. So, that's kind of the wisdom in overshooting a little bit and managing people's expectations.
Plus, we would have the 250,000, if we go with that number, the reserve on top of it, so really it's at 285. Okay, in a war.
I think
Try high math.
I think we're in good shape, but I just wanted to make sure that, there's a contingency for the contingency.
Like Joey.
Call Joe.
But yeah, I think you guys are bringing up a great point. I think the value you have an hourly rate we're locked into, depending on what they are when we start, because I don't know if the union's got a raise this year or not, but usually every year they go up a little bit. And it doesn't matter if it's union, non-union, the rate that it is, municipal rate, so. The thing that might get you is materials, because who knows what that'll be, because they might go up and may come down, and depending on, material, that could drive it.
Joe, I was thinking more like terms of, I know materials can happen with, labor is pretty much fixed and we're solid there. But they start, we're doing it small addition, it's gonna be the buffalo. And they start digging and they expose footing. And nobody's done any digs to look at footing, and all of a sudden they start exposing footing and say, oh my God, what's holding this building up? And we start exposing more and saying, we got, and I guess it's one of those bad dreams to think about, I don't know. I was
Well,
just,
that corner you're gonna dig in is probably the worst corner that you could dig in. Because the storm sewer goes through there, the water goes through there, the electric goes through there. But
and
this,
you're close to rock too. No?
I don't know if there's bedrock there, but that was all good gravel.
Okay.
When,
I thought you were close to rock at that.
I think when we were thinking about buying that building up on top of the hill, it was all great gravel, that Galena gravel wanted to come in. Buy that.
Whisk it away.
Yeah.
Okay.
So do we want to maybe look at, we can second guess this.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we had enough, that's all. Terry's very satisfied that night.
Yeah,
I'm trying to
cross that bridge, worst case, maybe that's your tightening of the belt, the addition. You won't know until you actually dig.
Let's go.
But, right.
You started to go 250?
I was gonna say, why don't we do up to 350, with the plan on using 250, but then we just a little cushion to back us up.
So the bond resolution is to expend from the capital reserve for capital improvements an amount not to exceed $350,000 into bond. There were to issue bonds in amount as serial bonds, that's serial as in one after the other, not as a breakfast, okay? Serial bonds, you're like the only guy that ever got that, thank you. Okay. For $2,850,000, up an amount not to exceed $2,850,000, and we will, given the amount and given the quotes Sean's been able to get, this will be a private sale of a bond. It will not require you to go out and do the things to sell the bonds publicly, because there is a local market of people or banks that will buy your bonds for that amount, with an interest that we reasonably anticipate the rate to be 4.6, 4 point from Sean. Yeah, hidden in here. And for a period of 15 years. And then to levy taxes to pay for the principal and interest on those bonds for the next.
I would make that resolution.
Second.
On one page. Wait, but in here, you did also have the election.
I'm gonna do that at the end. You gotta set an, well, you can do that.
It's not in this.
Yeah, you gotta set an election date, but I've got to redo this anyway.
Deeply determined.
So, but
Sorry, so Rich was first, who was Nick?
Nick, yep, Nick second.
Roll call.
Rich? Aye. Brian? Aye. Chris?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
One other thing.
Now we got the legal notice.
Now I gotta set the date for the mandatory referendum.
How long do you think it's gonna take to pull? First off, is there any, from the time we notice it, to the time we do it, is there a requirement?
Yes, the time you notice it, it's got, well, that's the absolute minimum is 34 days, but you actually, you need like, you still gotta market this thing, you still gotta present it.
Yeah.
That's probably your biggest constraint right now, how you're gonna get out there and inform the public. And then the only other constraint is it needs to be on a Tuesday.
So after having a brief discussion with Chief Littlefield and with the casino, they're pretty confident, and ready to go for the most part, to try to get so that the election portion chief would have done in one meeting. You okay with that? Right. So they're looking at April 4th.
We realize though that people are gonna be coming in and out of the building during the election, during the meeting.
Just said that.
I mean, I think we have done that before. We just shut.
We had the
all
door,
night.
we had the door between the kitchen.
Yeah, we
and
shut
the hall,
that down.
and we closed to isolate ourselves.
So you don't see any issue on your end as far as running on your,
Chief Littlefield is in contact with Ed now. We'll put that program together and get together with, you guys.
I just mean, just having a monthly meeting and an election that night, so you have multiple cars, you remember.
Yeah,
I want to make sure your membership's okay with, vice president.
And Tiffany, you're gonna be okay with that? I know you guys usually hold your executive meetings over there.
I mean, we could move our executive meeting, that's not a problem. What time would the vote start?
6 o'clock.
Right?
No, 6 at night, 6 to 9, just like a regular election.
The only thing I would suggest is that
My wife's back home.
we asked the fire company to set aside a half dozen spaces marked for voting purposes. You don't want somebody saying that, the damn fireman filled the lot so nobody could fit and vote against it.
Rich, that was my thought too, that parking spots right in front.
Yes, you have to
The
do
whole district office should be marked off.
There you go. As long as you guys got a plan, we don't have to interfere with it.
And over there, right?
All
In both
places.
spots.
Yeah.
As long as you guys got a plan, we don't have to interfere with it.
Chief, you got a problem with, using your parking lot on April 4th? It's a fill night for you guys? What, is that a meeting?
Not meeting.
Everything's good with you guys? Because it would be in both spots, right?
Yeah. My only concern was, but Terry kind of took care of it. I was just worried that interest rates change and the Fed's raising rates. But he said this was the rate that we were given at the time of the resolution being passed at 4.2563, as long as it's within that ballpark, right?
Yeah, you're gonna do it at the prevail, I mean, the resolution says prevailing rate of interest at the time you close. The nice thing about this is you're closing relatively soon.
Mhm.
Okay, so could it be more than that? Yeah, but it's a lot easier than when you're bonding a, a fire truck that you haven't even got the quotes yet for, and it's because you're not gonna get it for 2.5 years. And you're just thinking of a number, this is actually pretty close.
Okay. Yeah, that was my only concern.
All right, so we are good for April 4th, 2023 at 6 o'clock till 9.
They need a motion on that, Terry?
We just had the resolution.
Do that with all your, do that with all your,
The election.
the election stuff. I just filled the date in this already,
Yeah,
so.
gotcha.
you gotta do the election stuff. So.
Terry, I only did the additional resolution for appointing the Board of Elections. That's the only other resolution that I prepared ahead of time.
Yeah.
That's not right.
That's fine, and it gets, to get the role, board election and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That's all you need.
So,
The only other thing is that if you want just 6 to 9, you can go earlier, that's an option.
You can tell my wife she's working earlier at the election.
all right, so I have a resolution to appoint for the election. Mark Lasavita will be the election chairman. James Oliver will be an inspector at the Lionsville Firehouse. Joe Hogan will be a ballot clerk at the Lionsville Firehouse. Janet Kerwin, also the same. Janet Dickinson, also the same. William Stewart will be the inspector on the DFD side. And ballot clerk will be Tim O'Connor, Mike Lashman, and Jason Stratford. And if we need an alternate, we do have one, Jim Dickinson. Brian makes a motion, and second. Seconds. Roll call.
Yeah, Rich? Aye. Brian? Aye. Chris?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
I didn't, usually, that's what I'm missing. Usually I do have a motion saying that the board directs me to reach out to the Board of Election to get the official role. So can we just kind of like,
Well, that's your job anyway, so you have to do it by statute.
You don't think all of us should?
so should they still make that motion? I didn't.
Yeah,
bring it up.
they can make it, we can just add it on.
All right, I was gonna add it in the year that you were directing me to get the.
Absolutely, I thought I saw that.
There you
Eligible,
go.
okay, I didn't calculate before, so eligible voters would be those who are registered voters 23 days before April 4th and reside in the district 30 days before April 4th. That would be April 5th, that, so March 5th and whatever that other one is. Actually, it's not March 5th because it's always the weekend, so you have to go back. All right.
And Sean, you'll just add that onto this
Yeah.
and then resend it to me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Now, let's get to the big motion.
Yeah, well, we'll do the legal notice and then, but for Sean, for requesting the list of voters, he needs to know that it's, the roll as of 22 days before the election.
All right, you're also going to need a resolution for us, right? Special election. For April 4th, yeah, April 4th at 6, 9. No, we just did okay. The putting of the,
All right, I'm sorry.
now we got to do the actual legal notice to go in for the special meeting on April 4th from 6 to 9 in both places, here and on the west side. I think it's a resolution. Second by French, roll call.
Rich?
Aye.
Brian? Aye. Chris?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
Public meeting.
Now, for the workshop public meeting for this agenda, do we got to set a date or is it just
Yeah, for
like more for that or it's on the agenda?
presentation.
Well, if the board, what if the boards could all be there? So they should
Yeah.
do a workshop, right?
So we just got to figure out what.
You don't have any idea what date? Chief, you got a date in mind for a public meeting?
We tentatively penciled in March 23rd, which would be a Thursday evening.
7 o'clock.
You know, seeing the success that happened getting out of the old building down the street. And I was also involved peripherally with when they were running a similar campaign to get enough public support to replace the county jail. Goes back that far. I'm that old. What they did was schedule enough time. And here's what I would suggest: if we're gonna do something March 23 at 7, a formal meeting, that you maybe make at 5:30. The building will be open for people to come in, and we provide people that can escort them around and point out some of the trouble areas. So if people have questions, they want to know what this is all about, why we're doing this. You're not going to get many that'll do it, but the fact that you opened the door early and offered, people come in and take a look at how we got to work here. That goes a long way with people. Is that it just reeks of transparency, which is what you want, and it gives people that have a legitimate question that might come in otherwise. What the hell do we need this for? And like, geez, I walked around with a couple of guys from the committee and a couple of firemen. It really is it's a 40-year-old structure that needs some upgrade. So I would just suggest that either that night early or a night prior to that. Doesn't have to get anything formal. I remember the sheriff.
6 o'clock. All right. So you said 6 o'clock.
I remember the sheriff handing us a hammer and saying, "Go ahead and see if you can take out a piece of the wall." And I was like, "Good chunks of wall coming out." Yeah, I'll go for it in jail.
All right, so I'll the date of March 23rd this year at 6 o'clock at the Linesville Fire Department. Anybody have any comments?
I'm gonna be out of the country.
I mean, this really just all the process to go to.
Yeah, so just
One, two show up, and it's more authorized.
I'll be out of the country. Last day of the week.
Second.
we made it. I make motions. Brian second.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Ready? President's reports. Freesville?
Mr. Chairman, we have one request, request for Erica Hudson on April 30th. And we also would like to invite the district to a March 4th inspection here at the police fire department at 10 a.m. And we request the inspection by the district. We'd like to do a photo of the police fire department with the district members, and after that, have a light brunch.
You have a time on that?
10 a.m. March 4th.
Chris, on the facility use request, the district also received a request from the town of North Greenbush.
Yes.
Yeah, it's in the packet and in your Dropbox
That was from Joe Block
Yes.
for Route 4 corridor.
study, correct?
So we have a motion to approve the building use plans.
I'll make a motion.
Second. Second. Right, Rich? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Yeah. we- Linesville treasury report.
Hi, everybody. I believe, Bob, Mr. Durivage, you got firefighter application for Cody Morrissey.
Yep.
I'm sorry, was not in time to get on the agenda for you folks tonight. He's a junior firefighter. So that's all I've got for you tonight is his application.
I would move to get the.
Motion made by Rich, seconded by Brian.
Sure.
Brian, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Great. We got 3 minutes here. We have our organizational meeting, our regular board of fire commissioners meeting, and also the workshop.
Look good in the Dropbox.
Was great.
And I move to approve.
Motion made by Rich, seconded by Nick. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Treasury report.
Treasurer's report, as of January 31st, 2023, we had a money market balance of $656,071. Money market earned us interest at $222.84. Of that amount, $226,036 and some change for equipment, $337,766 is for capital reserve building, and $52,268 capital reserve repair. Checks account had a reconciled balance of $83,000. Here was the bank records for you to look at and sign off on. $83,961.47, $35.94 worth of interest. Bank recs are attached to the treasurer's report. The list of all the checks that were cut in January attached to the treasurer's report. The CPA firm was in was 26th of January. They were in the 26th and 27th of January. Everything looked good so far. They're sending out confirmations and so forth to wrap up the audit. We also received I got the check from Mike, the state or the town comptroller, for our tax revenue of $1.5 million. And I brought that out to Key Bank in Brunswick and deposited that on Friday afternoon. What else, Bob?
more curiosity than anything else, why did we have to issue New York State per account 2 different checks?
One's for him and one's for me.
Oh, okay, we can't just pay the bill. Got to look at accounts. Okay, I get it. Thank you.
Don't want
We could do
to,
that.
you don't want to mix it up.
Okay.
I'll take his money.
You probably messed somebody up a little bit. Thank you. Thanks.
Have a resolution to accept the treasurer's report.
I'll make that.
I am. Next second, roll call please.
Dick,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Brian. Aye. Rich.
Aye.
Approval of the current ones.
I went through the invoices, nothing really bad, just it was a busy dollar wise, $126,000 total invoices, 2 big ones for the, basically the insurances, property casualty crime renewal and the VFB pool insurance, that was like 94,000. Nothing abnormal.
I resolve that we pay the bills.
I'll second that. Roll call.
Rich.
Aye.
Brian.
Aye.
Chris.
Aye.
Nick.
Aye.
Correspondence.
We received the key bank FDIC insurance assets ending 1/31/23. Received a check from Dan Garab for Verizon charges for $158.99. Received notification from Association of Fire Districts of New York for the 2023 annual meeting. Received notification from Capital Area Fire Districts Association regarding their annual reception. We also received a notification from BFIS claims regarding cancer coverage pertaining to particular member. And we received from the Association of Fire Districts of New York proposed bylaw amendment change. That's it. Nothing sent.
Old business.
I got a question, Jerry. Terry, is there a backstory on that AFD bylaw change that we?
I'm not too.
Okay. I was just curious what direction they were, what they were trying to do. It seemed a little odd.
My hands are full of fast and keeping an eye on Sean, so I've got.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Old business. Real property tax exemption resolution. Well, my understanding is for you to get this exemption, you have to be an active member. The way to describe an active member under the VFBL is you just need to have a physical. You got 2 years or 20 years. I believe the 20 years is more grandfathering people in.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's in Dropbox. It's in Dropbox.
I have something in my pen. Yes, the reason this is significant to you folks here is that it looks like your school districts are on the cusp of doing this. Technically, it's supposed to be done by March 1st. I don't know if your school districts are going to get done, but ideally, if they do, or if they, yeah, and there's a possibility they do it late, it'll still be allowed. But the real prize here is your school districts. If you're an active member, the definition they use in the statute is enrolled member, which basically means an active firefighter, somebody who's not a social member or in a classification that's doing it. Somebody that actually has a pager, it's a physical, goes to calls, does stuff that if they got injured would collect VFDL. That's the definition of an active member, kind of like the same exercise we went through with cancer. You know, who gets cancer coverage? It's those people. It's not just interior firefighters, but it's anybody, fire, police, to exterior, to someone active. So what this resolution does is it allows for the fire district to grant the same exemption that we're told that this county is doing, that ideally the school districts did or will do, and that at some point the town of North Greenbush. Couple of reasons why you do it. If you're going out as the fire service asking for other taxing jurisdictions to give the exemption, you should have given it or should give it first. Secondly, is that you have the ability to do this and accomplish it because you had your hearing tonight. You can get it done before the March 1st deadline, which means that the assessor's office is going to have to process your applications for the taxes that you'll get on January 2nd, 2024, or if it was like this year, December 30th. I got them early on. The other thing that's hopeful is that because the district's doing it, if you choose to apply for it, and the school districts do it later, and there's some either grandfathering in or on a local level, there's a decision to allow it to go forward, that you've already done it, the assessor's already done the work, coding your application should you choose to apply for it. The dilemma that you have over here that I don't have because my school district already passed it. Okay, it's always going to be better for me to apply for it. Okay, because there's a lot of unknowns over here with school districts, and are they going to do it? Are they going to do it in time? Or if they were to do it March 13th, would that be allowed? There's a lot of unanswered questions. So you kind of got to make an individual decision as to whether you're going to apply for it or not. Knowing that if the law stays as is, March 1st is the hard date, and if it's not in by then, you will not get it for the 23-24 school year, and you won't get it for the 24 county and town taxes, but you get it for the fire district taxes and I'm sorry, you get it for the county taxes. County's passing it. Sorry, I've got so many things going on with jurisdictions I can't remember. So you would get it from the county. Now, I don't know if there's anybody in Rensselaer County that ever collected it. There was one guy in Albany County that collected it years ago, and the county never followed up on it. So everybody in Albany County, there was only one person that collected under their former county exemption. But now it's done on a local government level. It's just the timing of it stinks for you folks, but I am cautiously optimistic that maybe through the beneficence of if the school districts can get it done, that the assessors will allow it or the state will allow it, but we're not going to know that until we get down the road.
It's a crapshoot.
It's a crapshoot. You might lose out on, I mean, theoretically, the worst case scenario is you elect it and you only get the county and the fire district exemption because the town hasn't done it and the school district hasn't done it. And you theoretically would lose out on the $200 tax credit next year, not this year's tax returns, because that's 2022. Okay. But there's a very concerted effort to try to get statute fixed so that if the taxing jurisdictions have done it, even if it's after March 1st, that they'll count. Fazli's had discussions with the assessors, state assessors. They don't think it's going to be a big deal. They don't want everybody coming in on grievance day, if the school district passed it in April. So they understand it. We're optimistic. And again, I have no basis to say it's going to happen, but it's always because there's some stuff that could be done either by a chapter amendment or in the budget that would say, yeah, they're going to allow this. So we're optimistic. The other thing that Fazli's lobbying very heavily for now is the entitlement to take both. Okay, there's really no reason to bar one or the other. Okay, it's really so. And again, I have none of this has happened yet. It's stuff that is figuratively on the drawing board, and ideally something will be done. But If that were to happen this session, then the argument's academic. I mean, you apply for it. So there's a lot, again, more questions and answers.
So at the worst case scenario, anybody that could be eligible for it would probably have to be ready to hand in their application on or before February 28th. And then they gotta make their own decision as to whether it's they're beneficial to them to pocket the application or roll the dice and go ahead.
Correct.
Okay.
And we're gonna have to do some in-house work, because if I'm gonna be signing off on this form, I need to know who is or is not eligible for this. It's my name's on here. So the chiefs are gonna have to indicate.
Well, that's what I would think, the next couple, the next couple things we gotta discuss is that, who is eligible, what constitutes a firefighter?
And then the only other thing that the monkey wrench to is John's one as the assessor. And, what's that?
I think he's already.
Yeah, he's gonna go on, so,
Have they appointed a replacement?
Patty has been appointed, but he doesn't have the full training to be the assessor yet, she's still going through.
But here's the thing, if the county's done it, and if you do it, then the assessor has to deal with it. I mean, they can't say we can't deal with it.
That's their problem, yeah.
Yeah, it becomes a mandate at that point. It also becomes easier, we gotta do it for one, we don't care, it's just coding to add everybody after the first one.
And to get a list of active firefighters, really, it's just a matter of pulling your list who's got your physical in the last 12 calendar months, whatever.
I don't have it.
Right, no, you wouldn't have it, we had to get it to you, but really it's just printing out a list for both departments. Here's the 30, 40, 50 people got physicals, this is the list.
So it had to be the physical.
But then do you guys sort out, well, homeowners and renters, or how's that work?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you have to know, I mean.
Right.
Okay, and there's a opinion of the real property tax department, which is a couple of lawyers, who said that the definition of the BFTL of an active firefighter works. Okay, that you just basically, it's an active firefighter, which it's not really defined there, but it means that whoever could collect BFBL, you know, an active member as opposed to a social member, you know, if an active member and a social member walking into a meeting, the guy goes to a bar, no, they're both walking into a meeting and slip on the ice, the active member gets BFBL, the social member doesn't, okay, because it's one's a covered activity, one's not. It also says that same opinion, because they don't understand LoSAP, they said you can use LoSAP criteria, which I do not recommend, because you can't, it can't be applied effectively, right? At least certainly right now. The better definition, and the one that the income tax deduction uses, anybody bothered to look at that, the $200 credit, that's the deduction. $200 credit refers to a definition that is in the general municipal law under LoSAP, but it's not a LoSAP thing. The definition of people who are entitled to get the $200 income tax credit is our active firefighters, meaning persons who have been approved by the authorities in control of the duly active of the organized. Let's try it again. Authorities in control of the duly organized volunteer fire company or fire department as an active volunteer firefighter of such fire company or department, and who is faithfully and actually performing service in the protection of life and property from fire or other emergency accident or calamity in connection with which the services of such fire company or fire department are required. That definition is a pretty good one, because it's saying it's actually the people doing the job. And it's not saying doing it for 50 points a year or doing, you know, whatever. It allows the AHJ to say, yeah, go out, look at who's got tags, who's got gear, who's got fire police wand, who's active. And whether regarding, again, it's not tied to LoSAP, but that's again, that's the definition. We, the FASD folks, think that's a great definition because it's already used in the tax law for the credit. Whether people comply with it or not is another game.
Is there an issue with subjectivity of that? Actively and faithfully, what's defined, you know, I mean.
It's better than not having those words in there, candidly. It's that, you know who's on your active right, you know who your people are.
I mean, we have, I'm sure both companies have people that don't go to any fires during the course of the year. They help out at drills, they help out at company fundraisers, which are an active part of an active, part of your active organization. Maybe they'll work at, work details in the station. You know, I mean,
That's your definition of active firefighter.
okay,
Okay, but it may not be the one in my department, okay? In mine, we have low SAP, and then we have our own duty requirements, which are greater than low SAP. You know, as the example used, you could get low SAP and never run a call. Or you could run every call and then not get low SAP.
Yeah.
So that's why that's not good. So this puts the onus on the AHJ to say, these are the people who are active firefighters. Now, you don't have active firefighters who live in Florida, okay? They might live there part-time, but they don't live there year-round. Period. You know, that, and this is going to put the burden on the AHJ to step up to the plate and be honest and take a look at the roles.
I mean, if we get somebody that's in Florida for 11 months a year, comes back up here 1 month a year to come to a couple drills and meetings and, you know, hang out in the firehouse during calls, certainly the fact he's not going to meet the requirements. This is not going to be his primary residence.
I don't think he's actively and faithfully and actually performing the duties of a firefighter in the district, even though you may say he's an exempt veteran, stuff up there, whatever words the company wants to use, whatever you say. That's, you know, that's not the guy.
I just know during the, and it's not just here in North Greenwich, but I've heard about it in other places in the state where fire companies are hearing from members that haven't been members in 15 years that are all of a sudden coming back and saying, hey, what about me on this cancel one? You know,
Same thing happened with low step. People that gotten out of the department, you know, reapplied to get back in.
oh, they reapplying it active again. I know.
No, but that's the same thing happened when low step rolled out in between 88 and 91 in there. So it's a common phenomenon, but it actually, it means the AHJ, and in some case, not, in some cases you, in a contract department, it means the town. And ambulances are kind of funky. We're not really certain, but probably here is the town as well, because they contract with the ambulance. They gotta be able to say, you know, the worst thing, and I've had this happen, you know, chief, how many interior firefighters are, how many active firefighters you got? Yeah, you know, when they say about, you know, that's no good. You gotta know, you know, so it's gonna mean you gotta button up your rosters and say, look, this is a, you know, nice guy, but he's not here. And it's gonna be tough to do, but if that's the situation.
Well, you know, I think Brian mentioned, somebody mentioned here a few minutes ago that I mean, if they got a physical, yeah, that's a really, but if they, or let me rephrase that. If they don't have a physical, it's a really good indicator that they're not active at all.
Correct.
So immediately they fall off the page.
Okay, if I don't have a physical, I gotta turn up here. That's, it can happen in places.
It could.
Okay, so,
Somebody slips through the cracks.
yeah, so you can't, it might be more than just a physical. But it's, you know, if it's people you can count on, and maybe you don't have to count on 365 days a year, but they're actively and faithfully, when they're here and they're here enough, doing the jobs. But the biggest criticism, if you let people slide, will not be from the public, it will be from people
Oh, yeah.
in the organization. And you don't want to betray those people. And I've had this discussion with a number of assessors, like, well, you know, believe me, it'll be police within the fire organizations, because, you know, someone will not want someone else taking unfair advantage of, even if they did it for 30 or 40 years, you know, it's like, no, you're not entitled to this. This came along now.
So when your active service ends, then this ends.
You've got 20 years, you're active today, this thing goes through, you get 20 years in, you're fine, you're good until you die, and then your spouse has to file.
Okay. Pre-existing. Okay. Makes more sense now.
I just have one question on it, and it's only because of the way, when it says enrolled member, is that the way the district interprets it, or is that the way the law is? Because one of the questions I have, and just let me finish on it, is we have auxiliary members who now can respond to calls to assist with the code 100s and stuff like that. If they get hurt, how are they covered and how's the district handle that? So how do you do that? I mean, they may only do it once a year, they may do it 5 times.
No, your auxiliary members are not actively in favor. That's why I like that definition. And under the BFPL definition, they're not going to get BFPL. They're not covered. They're not active firefighters for BFPL.
If we were to create, we could create a class of firefighter that would include people doing that, but we haven't done that.
You could, and you would probably be not doing it properly because they're not active firefighters.
Okay, I'm just thinking about a fire department I'm familiar with in Albany County, there's gonna, what they call a sport battalion. And you know who I mean, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, but I mean, the whole point, this is for people doing the job. We don't need people, I mean, we love everyone, but this is for the firefighters and the fire police. And if you go much beyond that wake of involvement, you're probably outside what the law.
Looking for.
The one opinion that's out there says you can use the DFPL definition and you can use the low SAP definition. If you search it, and some counties have done that. It's insane because they have no way. They don't know what low SAP is, and they're trying to use it. I like that definition that's used in low SAP. I like it because they used it in the tax law for the income tax credit. So tax to tax. I mean, I believe that's the definition that ought to be used.
We're gonna be challenged either way, so I just wanted to make sure I really understood where we were going.
This
The
is-
guy that we say no to is gonna raise a stink fit, and then the people, if we do say yes to them, somebody else will raise a stink fit.
Are they in the roles of people that are fighting fires or directing traffic? Because that's really, or going to EMS calls on behalf of the fire department. That's really the criteria.
Chris, I just have one question on that. And this may come back from some of our older members that are life members that have been around for a while. So they're life members, they haven't been around for a while, they're not actively participating in fire force, or they have not had physical. They're not eligible.
So not eligible because this goes into effect now.
Yeah.
If and it's unfortunate.
Right.
But this is a bet and yeah, I'll end it there. It's unfortunate, but that's the way it's written. And the big difference here is that, and people, it's a blessing and a curse, is that there's two definitions, or two words, there are two phrases that are used in the statute. One is governing body. That's the one. That's the taxing jurisdiction. And the other is authorities having jurisdiction, and that's here. And it says the governing body and the authorities having jurisdiction have to determine procedure for qualified people as well. But it leads to the AHJ what constitutes an enrollment.
Using Joey's example to carry it a step further. Guy's no longer active. He did 25 years ago, but now all of a sudden he says, well, I'm gonna come back. And he gets a year or two, got his physical, he's performing some kind of duty that meets that requirement. Does he get his old years?
An unanswered question. It's not an answered question, but I've seen it. I've heard districts are going to do it opposite ways. Yes, you do, or no, you don't. I mean, March 1st is the cutoff for this. The purpose is to get active firefighters.
We're gonna do a lot of people March 1st, I think. Schedule a lot of physicals between now.
Well, you don't schedule a physical till you get an application voted on by the fire company.
Yeah, you're right.
So, I mean, yeah, there's going to be some circumstances where it seems inappropriate and unfortunate.
Okay.
But I think it's best left to the AHJ to decide who's an enrolled member than to somebody else. That's what the statute is.
So we don't need to make that definition clear tonight, correct?
I think you should.
Oh, okay.
I think you should. I think you should. I would suggest you use the definition in General Municipal Law 215(1), which is that what I read to you, which is a little more refined than the VFBL definition.
It's a little more restrictive than what I think some of us have read into this, or a lot of our general members come to believe, picking up pieces of it here and there, it's like, oh boy, everybody's gonna get a tax credit. Because based on that definition, everybody's not gonna get a tax credit.
What's the purpose of giving a tax credit?
I get it,
Okay.
I get that completely.
So, I mean, thank you for your service, but it wasn't in effect.
Okay.
When some, again, it's unfortunate, and I'm the last person that wants to say it to somebody, but that's the reality of it. It's like the cancer coverage. You know, 2019 was the magic year, you know, it didn't apply before that, whether you got cancer or not, 2017 or 16, so. This is a horrific piece of legislation, it's just, it's awful. But we're trying to chart it in a way that you can get through it and get the best benefit for your membership or for your people and not run afoul of the law. And the cleanest way to do that, I think, is to use for this benefit, which is in the real property tax law, the same definition that the tax law uses for the income tax credit. I think that's unassailable in terms of being able to defend it. And I think it also gives the HJs a lot of discretion and certainly a firm foothold to argue that this is the definition we're using.
I'd like to make a resolution that we adopt real property tax exemption, utilize some general law 251.
215.
215, my fault.
Yeah.
It juxtaposed numbers when I wrote down your notes. Utilizing that to determine what, the actual credit definition would be.
Nick,
Second by Nick.
who's quicker? Roll call.
Nick. Chris. Brian. Rich.
Aye.
Do I dare speak on this one more thing? Don't run down to the assessor's office tomorrow with your white form. Okay, if you're inclined to do so. There's gotta be something coming from the district that shows that you're an enrolled member. We've had discussions about, Bob and I have, it hasn't gone much farther than that, but what we're doing on the other side of the river is you're gonna have the white tax form. And the district's gonna give you another form. And then you'll have two forms. That way you go down to the assessor's office and hand them in saying you want the exemption.
We get the certification from the district, and then we fill out.
No, they fill out the 466A file form, which is available online, it's available, click on the FASD website.
Remember?
Yeah, the member fills that out. Right. And there's one little typo on that. It's how many years you remember, but the district will have to prepare that certification form, and I suggest that you contact the assessor and let them know that it's coming. If anyone wants to do it, the onus is on the individual to make that application. The onus should be on the individual to see Sean or Bob or whoever going to do it, to say, I want to be counted in that group that gets the certification form.
So they would fill this out and say, here, Sean, I'm approved, signed it.
No, the district would fill that out with the name on. We don't,
Then I provide this to them?
you provide that to them.
You providing that, the district providing that doesn't automatically enroll.
No,
You
they have to physically take that. All that is proof that they're an enrolled member under the eyes of the district. There's another form that goes with that that looks very much like a tax form. It is a tax form that they have to use. It's called, and it's, you can get it on the FASD website, you get it on the tax department website. But that's better than you sending a list over to the assessor's office and then having the assessor have to hunt through to try and match up. John, is this John G. Smith or John A. Smith? I mean, that way the applicant has both the things they need, the application form and the certification.
What question then for Sean and Bob is, what information do you need?
Well, so shouldn't they come to me and say, here's my 466 form completed? Will you sign the certificate for it?
No, you will give them that. They will not bring that to you. You don't want those. That form that you're holding in your hand,
How am I I'm only gonna make them out on a
as needed basis.
right? And then how am I gonna know who is this and this? And how am I gonna know who actually is this? I'm gonna need a list. I guess.
You've got to know who's got 20 years in.
Right, I got.
And who's got 2 years in. And 3 months from now, when somebody gets their second year in, it comes in and says, hey, I've been here for 2 years, I want to go down and apply, they might allow me to have it or something. You're gonna be issuing these things as you go. Or I've got 19 years in, and then in July, I've got 20, I'd like a 20-year form now. So this is not just a one-shot deal. Right, stay tuned, and I'll tell you what you have to do every February from here on out.
So with Sean's question about the list, we did clean up our list quite a bit for the cancer coverage law, which I would believe, based on the general municipal 215 section, that's exactly what that was based on. For those individuals that were defined as class 1 through that we had to provide with VFIS saying active firefighters.
Yeah, you could have an enrolled member though that was never an interior firefighter, so those lists are not necessarily identical. You know what I'm saying? The cancer list would have only been at someone who was interior or something.
Correct.
So you
Right.
could have somebody.
Yeah,
who's-
that was on the other side.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Your thing.
Yeah, but to Sean's point about the list, so I mean, that list would serve as, I would say, pretty close to the list that if the board approves this, that would be the list that we would be going by for the most part. And we've also asked the departments to provide us with their start date, their member date on that list. And we could also get, on the list, we could ask, do they own the property? What's the address of the property? Things like that. So we kind of know that moving forward. Would that be helpful?
It's good information to have, but since you're not filling out the other form, you don't really need to know the tax ID number of the property you're giving, it's
on them. It's on them.
Correct.
Okay. But the date of service, we should know that.
You should, but to be really technical, it should be the date of service they're accepted as active firefighters by the district, not the day they got it. But that's really splitting hairs.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
But if you've got a start date for them, I mean, most everybody comes in here within a month or so.
So we'll be back up, then I got another question as it affects the members from this side of town. We're only talking about the 20 years starts when we form the district.
No, the 20 years is in the fire service. Oh, remember the fire company that is now in the district, they would have had 20 years in if it was a protection district.
Okay. So if they had 10 there and 10 here, they're good.
Well, they got whatever they got in the fire service, but you became the AHJ and you inherited the stuff. Sure. But this would have been a town problem if it had before that.
Can't see them.
Yeah.
I'm not here.
I mean, excuse me, we're gonna get, like I said before, we're gonna get people that are already both sides of it. That I should have gotten it, and then there'll be other guys saying, why did he get it? So we're gonna have that either way, I think, so. You just gotta.
It doesn't, I mean, it's
So I'm gonna deal with it.
Here's the problem. You know when people come into service, but a lot of times they leave service and we don't know until a year or so or more later.
Yeah.
And then they just kind of drift in and drift, yeah.
Drift out.
Okay, so that's why I think you have to, just because you've been carrying somebody for 4 years on your VFL doesn't make it right necessarily. You gotta be fulfilling some duties. And just because somebody didn't make LoSAP for 4 years doesn't mean they're not active and faithfully discharging their duties, so.
I do like the physical on the list.
Yeah, as long as you require physicals every year or for everybody, or,
It's available to everybody.
but no, but yeah, that's what I thought. It's a lot of like,
The 20 to 30-year-olds are every 3 years, 30 to 40 is 2 years, and over 40 is every year.
so, okay, so,
Or based on positions or.
Yeah. so you can't use the every year rule of somebody who's 20 to 30, But most of those are your 2 year people anyway.
They've gotten their physicals as required by the department position.
But you could have a 38-year-old with 20 years.
Terry, is there anything to do with the members that live out of the district? That are volunteering in this district at all? Is there anything that can be reached out past that? If the county approves it, and let's say the Able Park School District approves it, but they live in Postville,
Okay,
and they're covered for the county and they're covered for the school district, how do you?
okay, here's, and that's a great question, and it's come up, and because the statute is so poorly worded. In fact, it makes it, they copied wrong, but the rule, literally reading this, you get, for every case, you gotta start with you in your house and what taxing district are you in, okay? I'm in this town, I'm in this school district, I'm a firefighter in that fire district, but I'm a member of this district or in this protection district, okay? So where it's gonna get really stupid, okay? The law says that if you are a firefighter in the town, village or city,
Where you pay taxes?
yes, then you get the exemption provided that fire district that you live in or that town that has the protection district has adopted the rules. So let me use real life example. I'm in the Ellesmere district. One of our chiefs lives in the Selkirk Fire District, just a 5 wood across the district line. He moved out there. So he is an Ellesmere firefighter, but he resides in Albany County, town of Bethlehem, Selkirk Fire District, Bethlehem School District. Assuming all 4 of those pass, he would get the Albany County, he would get the Bethlehem School District, he would get the town of Bethlehem, and he would get the Selkirk Fire District exemption because he is a firefighter in Ellesmere, which is in the same town that's protected by the Selkirk Fire District.
And it's where he pays taxes.
And that's where he pays taxes. So Selkirk could enact it for their firefighters, and it will apply to him as an Ellesmere firefighter because he's a firefighter in the same town. That's why when you use post and kill, it's a different, okay. And it's just because it's a fluke in the law because they cut and pasted things that shouldn't have been cut and pasted. So it says if you're a firefighter, it also says once you get the 20-year exemption, you get it as long as your residence is in the county, okay?
Not even the township.
Not even the town, okay? Because the people that write this stuff don't know what they're doing, okay? So literally, this could have ramifications as we go on farther, but so as an Ellesmere firefighter in Bethlehem, I moved to Guilderland, the town of Guilderland, with my 20 years. Theoretically, I should get the exemption in Guilderland and in that fire district and in that town. Doesn't make any sense to me. That's the way the law is currently written. So the permutations are really bizarre depending upon what taxing district you're in and how many years you've got in, and literally the words that are used that are probably improper. So you got to take everybody individually by which town they're in and which,
I just look at the benefit for like North English fire members here, is that at the end of the day here, my quick calculations, if we have 40 people that own houses, I think you're probably going to get less than 30 people that are going to be able to use this. So as far as it being a benefit, it doesn't really work. Not for the majority of the members that are here. And I'll just use myself. I don't plan fire trucks anymore, but there's a lot of support staff, no different than any other program. And when they say enrolled member, there's difference between somebody that pays their dues just to be a social member and wander off, but people that actually participate in the functions during the months or during the weeks, those people will be left out. And that's a big part of what keeps the organization running. So that's why I look at this thing differently than most. I mean, I want to see everybody that's fighting fires, of course, go there, but that's why we have LoSAP too. This is the only thing that I saw that was coming out and saying, we're not only doing protecting the firefighters, we're supporting the support staff.
it doesn't say that. It doesn't say support staff. Specifically,
It says enrolled
members.
which is an opinion of which is a member or which is an active firefighter. And what we adopt, if we adopt the physical part, then you're gonna have, in this district alone, you're gonna have probably 80% of your members who won't be covered on this.
So if they get a physical.
That's what they pick.
If they get a physical, essentially, if they get a physical in class D, which is a support category, we already have it, it's called class D. There's A, B, C, and D, which is support. That could be somebody who sits in the station and answers the radio during calls.
Right.
It's support, so there is a classification. If they're doing activities in the firehouse,
I guess we just have to look at that.
You know,
and make sure that those
maybe,
people
you know,
understand that.
you could have somebody in that position that's maintains their driver qualification and just uses it to shuttle trucks back and forth to help the chiefs when they need to move trucks around.
So I understand that. I'm just saying is that, just so those people don't get missed out, because realistically, how many people in the 20-year-old bracket for the house, or the 30-year-old bracket, or the 40-year-old bracket, and then if they even live in the district.
And one of the accidental masteries of this, though, is that for the 20-year-old, that even if they just, you know, even if they just buy a house, maybe they bought a small house that doesn't have much of an assessment, you know,
Correct.
they can, at this point, they can still take the $200 tax credit.
and they don't have to pay any taxes.
And so, I mean, there's.
The cancer law says eligible volunteer firefighters, which is the one of our enrolled member, means the firefighter with 5 or more years of faithful and actual service in the protection of life and property from fire. And then it goes on to the interior. So I mean, it's not meant to be an exemption for people who are members of the club, no matter how much support they give. It's meant to be more firefighters. It's a recruitment and retention thing. It's not a, we want you to come join the organization. And it's going to be bitterly unfair to some people, but if they're not active firefighters as defined by this, and that doesn't mean you have to be jumping on trucks. It means you got to be out there getting up at night, going to calls, fire, police, whatever. That's what it's for.
The part about the cancer was kind of terrible, but not everybody gets cancer when they're an active member. It could be 5 years after they get done. And then basically they're left out to higher drive.
That's, I get it. I'm trying to show you that there are definite, I mean, there are.
No doubt. I understand that. I'm just saying is that part of this stuff when they do put it together.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we're gonna. Sort of around, we're going to choose reports.
I got a resolution. I made a resolution to adopt it from this fall 15. Definitely. It was seconded. So Steve
Seconded. Oh, we did that.
You did.
Yeah, we did.
I was voted. It's how long it's been.
No,
Sorry, you voted yes.
We did.
You voted yes.
you made it.
Right.
Good. Chief, you're up.
We're still finalizing our purchases for the year, lot versus need. We were gonna get the old take on Rescue 9 repaired. It's been like 16 months. We finally figured out what the issue was. It's going to be $200. We were asked last month by the district to come up with some kind of policy on using the DFIS online stuff. That's in our training committee now. So we'll have something back next month, probably. Assistant Chief Galligan, Engineer Steer, and myself went up to Vandermont for a little meet and greet, set expectations. There's some issues we're having. I think it was a good experience for everybody. And I get to meet them. Kind of my report.
All right, we also have a purchase here.
Oh, yeah, that's good. Experience.
Okay, everybody had a chance to look at it?
Yeah.
Everybody good on it?
I've been asking for 18 months, so yeah, I'm very happy to see that.
You don't want it?
Yes, I do, but I've been asking for it.
All right, so we have a resolution to go out and purchase bidding, total spending, $245.
I'll make it.
I will, go ahead.
Make the motion for the fittings.
Seconded by
Shut French up, kidding.
Frank.
Rich.
Yes.
Brian.
Aye.
Chris.
Aye.
Nick.
Aye.
People appeal.
All right, not sure if you have the January statistics in your Dropbox or not, it was a bit tardy, my apologies,
They'll go in tomorrow.
but that is available for you. We have some purchases, some loose items that need to be repaired or have a piece in place. Truck 42 went and had another spa day at Watkins Spring. So that suspension issue has been corrected. So there's a bill for $455 pending for that. There's more to that, but we'll not get into it at this point in time. St. Jude Apartments, for a follow-up to that, had a very productive meeting with the building manager and actually the alarm company representative. Basically, what we came down to is there's a possibility that an item called a UDAC is the issue. Basically, that's the part of the system that tells it whether it's supervisory or a true alarm. That is apparently an issue at St. Jude Apartments. So we're working with both parties to hopefully get that issue corrected. And then we won't be going there for breakfast, lunch, dinner, shaving, and showers. I briefed Commissioner McCray on a little bit more of the detail with that. He seems to be on board, and we're waiting to see how it progresses. All I have.
Good job. Any committees, apparatus, Christian?
The only thing I got is, Wednesday, the 15th, we're doing the pre-construction meeting on the build out of Utility 9. Parts that were specified in the spec are starting to arrive. And, he wants to have to get the pre-construction meeting so you can take delivery of the truck. And, I guess one of the first things they're gonna do is send out the stripe and letter so that things are on top of that rather than cutting around it. So, he wants to get that process going. Hopefully we'll very quickly build out a utility truck like we planned.
All right. Buildings and grounds, Brian?
No report.
I got it. District personnel,
No report.
yes. See if you can keep it up next. Finance, insurance, and audit.
Not unless Sean has something.
I already reported in my treasury report, so I have nothing.
Long range planning.
No report.
All right. Policies and procedures, nothing to.
I'll make this as brief as possible. I hope everybody's had a chance to read the documents in Dropbox. To get basically to summarize real quickly. There's minor changes in the wording to the text reimbursement policy. You sort of like go back into the days when, these charging $5 for unlimited text messages to reimburse. Basically, this is formalizes, it's more to support the mobile app guy and responding and stuff now. There's no change in the rate. And basically, the chief of each department should have, just back when you go quick, it's tied to LoSAP. Yes. The active members of the check made LoSAP are eligible for the reimbursement, that they should have the report by March 1st. A lot of questions come up when do you get the checks? It's after March 1st. So basically, the companies have until March 1st to get their lists in, February 28th or 29th for a leap year. To the district, so they can get the list made together and then just get approved the reimbursement. So that would be in March. So just some minor changes to the wording there. Formalize the actual date to have the actual vouchers into the district. So I don't think we really got to go and change by it, at the very least, changing policy. I assume it's a resolution. Just adopt the changes.
Because with the insurance,
That's way separate. Or we can, I can just do both at once. You want to adopt one policy. The other was changing the gym policy. We discussed a couple months ago about changing the reimbursement rate from $200 to $300. We basically added things like the online apps, like whether it's like Peloton or basically any type of thing where you can get a record of your business. So we've looked at some other policies, and after talking it over with Commissioner Garrett, myself, We're looking to raise the reimbursement rate to $300, but also raise the number of visits to 50, not 30. 50 still, it's not a ridiculous amount. It's basically one a week. It's really truly trying to be physically fit. You go once a week to the gym, or get on your Peloton or any type of thing that tracks and actually spits out a report when you did something. So we're looking to change the policy that would not affect reimbursements this year. The dollar amount would be for 2024 reimbursement for the 2023 year. For this year, it's still remaining $200 for those who qualified.
Resolution, I'll take a resolution, through vote.
Nick seconds. Roll call.
Rich. Brian. Chris.
Aye.
Nick.
Most said. Nick, Brian, Keith.
That time of year, send emails out on Friday to both chiefs. I know we've gone through some software changes. Bob informed me that they were working on this side with some issues from the switch over from Alpine or from Firehouse software to the Alpine. So we do have to have it into Doug Masions by March 1st. And I'll reach out to get a better date and go forward.
Yep. Business up front. Operation and technology. Nick.
Nothing.
Plan review. Brian, Nick, Keith.
Or just quacking there, going back to the planning board, I believe, the town referred it back, I'll get those meetings, and then beyond that, no things are showing in this response.
I did just have a brief meeting with my zoning board hat on with the new building department, Mike Minor's replacement. And I did switch hats at one point and say, look, the fire commissioners are also going to work with you closely. There's some things in the past. We discussed them, and Bill Miller was there, so I wasn't speaking out of turn. Bill acknowledged that some of those things did occur. And he seems very, very cooperative and very interested in establishing a good relationship with the fire department.
Very good. Very good. Paramedic operations. Rich.
Nothing at this point.
And I don't have anything either. Public session. We got anything? Right,
I guess I'm not sure I understand what going back to the tax exemption, the 2-year and the 20-year, is that essentially giving somebody like membership if you're currently active and have 20 years to be tax exemption?
Yes.
Yep. What's that?
If they have physical.
If you have.
Just one thing, I've been working with the town a little bit on the assessment and all that. They haven't approved anything yet, and the last word that I have heard that they're setting up, have this ready for 2024. And I think the county's the same way, but we'll know tomorrow, I guess. They're going to.
I think you guys possibly maybe reporting out tomorrow night. Yeah. Apologize.
But like I said, it's right now, the town doesn't even think they're gonna be even close to anything for some 2024 next year. And certainly all these out,
Big hinge.
Yeah, I mean, but what they don't understand is that that doesn't change is if you don't do something by March 1st, you're not gonna get the 2024 taxes. It's not gonna apply to them. Because March 1st, 2023 closes the door on 2024 county and town fire district taxes and on the 2023-24 school tax. So, I think that's a popular misconception with, I think, some of the politicals. They don't get it. If they don't do this now, if you wait till, you're really talking 2025. So here's your benefits.
Anything else for public session?
Put it to.
Motion to adjourn. Brian, Rich, all in favor? Aye.
So we start on all the, we should just like sort of chat about all this resolutions and stuff is very gonna be. Filing is all that, it's gonna be. Taking all the information.
Not to exceed 300,000. You're gonna, well, this.
Yeah, but what you're not seeing. is equalization. Our equalization rate is now 29%.
I'll take myself.
Different, different odd angles. If their equalization rate is close to 100%, then 5
Yeah.
Yeah. So you get another equalization rate. And to get your equalization rate, you try to reassess. And it was found.
March sixth for the residency.
Oh, they will, the state will, put on that. Get it resolved. And that's the way they did it last time.
I didn't look, I gotta find, here.
Everybody talking about it, there's more to it. State. The year they reassess.
The reason is,
Next election.
the way this is done, you always have to both of them. So, can't count something. Right, so it's actually 22 days.
So that'll be all right. So what I would be in that.
Take her- Yeah, that'll- Split that.
Actually. We cruise here. That we have a bar. Yeah. Blue Ridge Mountain, across the Gulf Coast, Texas. Arizona, over to Denver.
You know, I'm not afraid to.